Okay, well, we are recording. Does it look good on your end?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right, my name is Peter Barr, and I'm the author of Exploring North Carolina's Lookout Towers. And I am joined today by my dear friend and esteemed photographer and author himself, Kevin Adams. Kevin, say hello.
Hello.
So Kevin and I are most excited to be releasing this new work, Exploring North Carolina's Lookout Towers, this coming April 2021. And we're excited to tell you a little bit more about it. This is going to be a real informal introduction to this work and show you some of the towers that are going to be contained in it, the hikes, and talk a little bit about Kevin's photography of this book. So Exploring North Carolina's Lookout Towers is a follow-up to a book that I wrote 13 years ago called Hiking North Carolina's Lookout Towers. And this new book will feature both hikes and history of 26 historic lookout towers based in Western North Carolina in the Southern Appalachian Mountains. And for all 26 of these towers, there will be interesting human interest stories and history combined with a lot of the background on the structures themselves and the architecture, as well as the scenic views that you can see from these towers, combined with driving directions and hiking directions to each one of these summits. Many of these towers can actually be driven to. All of them can be hiked to. Some of them are short hikes and some of them are much longer hikes. In addition to the 26 lookout towers, there are background info and hikes and photography on 8 additional lookout tower sites where fire towers formerly stood. And we're excited to show you some of those towers contained within this book, as well as have Kevin talk a little bit about the photography that he did for each one of these towers. So the cover image is the Albert Mountain Lookout Tower. This is in the Nantahala National Forest, right along the Appalachian National Scenic Trail. And this was a tower built in the 1950s. That's about 40 feet tall and includes a just spectacular panoramic view of the surrounding Nantahala Mountains, the Unicoi Mountains, Valley River, and Tusquity Mountains. You can see all the way to the Smokies. And this is located just west of the town of Franklin. And this is a tower that you can drive to within about a half mile of. And this is one of my, if not my favorite image that Kevin took for this book. And Kevin, can you tell us a little bit about this image?
Hey, thanks, Peter. Yeah, when Peter and I got together talking about doing this book and me doing the photography for him, I knew pretty soon that I was going to have to spend some money. And I hate that you made me do that, Peter, but it just had to happen. The only way to get good photos of some of these fire towers is from the air. And we tried it. Remember when we went up in that airplane and we tried to get it and scared to death flying through those clouds? Well, I quickly learned that the best way for me to get some of these shots was with a drone. I never had a drone before, so I bought one, went out to learn how to use it. And so I used it for a number of the shots in the book, and this is one of them. There's no way to get close or any good vantage point except from the air for fire towers like this. So I was really pleased with the effect and being able to use it. So yeah, it's cool. And then autumn, man, what can you say about when you can get the autumn colors going with it? It worked out really well.
Yeah, well, I love this image, so thanks for the good work on it, Kevin. Another feature of this book to really showcase Kevin's talents and one of his photography interests and skills and passions is this book contains a lot of his night photography, which he's done on a lot of different subjects, especially waterfalls, but this was an opportunity for you to do night photography with fire towers. So there's an image of the Duckett Top Lookout Tower in Madison County. This is a civilian conservation corps tower built in the 1930s. And tell us a little bit about this image.
Yeah, and Peter, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to use my night photography passion when I was photographing these towers. So I tried to incorporate that as much as I could into the photography. So I spent the night up here on top of the mountain and photographed all night long. This is a what's called a star trail image where I'm just shooting multiple frames. I think this is probably, if I'm remembering right, maybe about 50 or 60 4-minute exposures that stack together. And because I'm pointing towards Polaris, and because my camera is mounted on a tripod, which is remaining fixed on Earth, but Earth is rotating and recording the stars while it's rotating. They show up as these streaks like this, which is a really cool effect. And then I finished it off with light painting the foreground with the flashlight, and the interior of the lookout is my lighting as well. I put an LED light in there to illuminate the interior. It's a lot of fun, a lot of fun. And Peter, as I understand, this is like one of your favorite fire towers, right?
It's just got a really quaint architectural design, was built by the CCC. It's in a really, really remote location, and just a tower that I fell in love with a decade and a half ago when I first visited it. Had the fortune to work on a small scale restoration project on this tower too. So it's in a lot better shape now than it was 15 years back.
Yeah, I can see why you like it. It was one of my favorites too.
This is another one of my favorites, Kevin. This is the Panther Top lookout tower out west of the town of Murphy in Cherokee County. This is also in the Nantahala National Forest. And I really love this one because it's in a quaint setting of just a kind of broad grassy top summit. And I love how the tower pops in this one. What do you remember about this one?
Well, I remember it was my favorite morning, I guess my most rewarding morning from photographing for the book. I just had a great time. I hiked up a couple hours before sunrise and then just went through the whole sunrise portion. This obviously is shot with the drone, but the clouds, the fog that you see here is over Fontana Lake. And let's see, it'd be part of Little Tennessee River too, I guess, at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Or help me out here, Peter. Is that is Fontana part of it, right? Or is it the?
Actually, now that I think of it, it is further west, so it's not Fontana.
Oh yeah, what am I talking about? See, Peter's the expert on that. And in fact, hey, that's one reason why I was so happy to work on this project, because Peter's an excellent writer to begin with, but his research and digging up all of the facts and everything is just superb. And so I was just tickled to death to work with him on this. Yeah, this is not Fontana, but the clouds and the fog is over lakes and I think part of a river as well. So that's why it's there. But it was almost completely circling the lookout. So it was really cool. In all directions, I could see that. So I couldn't climb up. Well, I could climb up, but I couldn't get inside the cab. And so it wasn't great to shoot from the stairs there, but the drone, and it just really looked good with the fog and then the sun rising up over it. So, and I got quite a few shots there. Just a glorious morning.
Well done, and thanks for spending the money on that drone. This is another really just special image to me. I know this one's a little bit older. This is the Mount Sterling Lookout Tower. It's located in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. And this is you can't drive close to this one. This one's a pretty stiff hike. You can take maybe, the shortest way is about 3 miles, but you'll still climb about 3,000 feet to get here. So you'll really earn the views from this tower. Also built by the Civilian Conservation Corps, and it's a different style than the other towers. It's a tall 60-foot steel lookout tower, and where Kevin took this image was the former location of a little wooden cabin where the tower operators used to live. These former images of towers that you've seen or live-in cabs where the tower operators actually lived up in the top of them. The towers are a little shorter. So different style tower. This tower, pretty remote location, deep in the backcountry of the Smokies. This one's also special in that it actually has a formal backcountry campsite at the base of it where that cabin used to be. So this is one you can spend the night at and maybe try out your own night photography. Kevin, how'd you get the lighting on this one?
Yeah, that campsite's the reason that I was able to get this shot. So because you can't just camp anywhere in the Smokies, but so I had reservations for that. So the star trails, I shot those just like I mentioned with the Ducket Top Tower. But the lighting on the zigzag lighting, that's me shining a flashlight into the camera as I'm walking up and down the steps. Wore me out because I had to do several tries to get it just right. And I'm not the peak bagger like Peter is, so I don't have those strong legs like he does. But and the cab lighting is from a camera flash. So in the cab, I just took my flash out and I put a yellow gel filter on it to color the light, make it look like a lantern, like the old keepers might have had in there, and just fired the flash.
Yeah, well, I love this one because you've got the flashlight on the stairs, you've got the cab lit up, and you've got the star trail. So this one has a lot of really cool stuff going on. So nicely done. Another one, let's run through these next ones a little quicker. One thing about Kevin and I, we could talk all day. So I'm telling him, let's run through them quicker. I need to do that myself. This is the Frying Pan Mountain Lookout. This is in the Pisgah National Forest, bordering the Blue Ridge Parkway. And this is a tower that has become really popular because it's pretty close to Asheville. You can get there in probably a 45-minute drive from Asheville along the Blue Ridge Parkway. This is a tall one. It's a 70-foot tower and has a really spectacular view, not only of the surrounding national forest, but specifically Cold Mountain and the Shining Rock wilderness. And Kevin caught this one at a really awesome time of day. What do you remember about it?
Yeah, well, I remember learning that if I want to get a shot of this fire tower without a whole bunch of people in it, then I got to get there at sunrise, not sunset. So hike up real early. All of those people that just flood this fire tower, they don't mind going in the evening, but they don't like to get up early, I guess. So yeah, sunrise shot for sure, and I had it all to myself.
Yeah, and this is a tower that in this particular book, I added a hike that you can do in winter, which is actually kind of non-traditional, but it's once they close the Blue Ridge Parkway for snow and ice, like at this elevation above 5,000 feet, that typically happens kind of January, February range, is that this tower would be otherwise hard to get to, but you can take a 3-mile hike along the parkway itself. And that nowadays, other than sunrise, might be one of the few times you get this one to yourself. This is a really iconic tower. This is the Mount Camera Lookout, also in Great Smoky Mountains National Park, like the Mount Sterling Tower we showed you before. This one's really neat. It's got stone architecture. It's perched on the very, very edge of a cliff, is a octagonal shape. Also built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. One of my favorites among many, of course, but this one is really iconic. A lot of people are familiar with this one just because it's unlike any of the other towers in the book. Kevin, how'd you get this one?
Yeah, I think this is one of my favorites too. What I remember about this is no sleep, because this is in the Smokies, but there's no campsite here, and you're not allowed to camp there. So I had to stay up all night long. But I was photographing, so that was okay. That kept me busy. But yeah, so we got the moon, we got twilight colors. This is sunrise, right at the early twilight, long before the sun's going to rise. Pulled out a flashlight to illuminate the foreground, and I've got my LED light panel inside. You can get inside the lookout here to illuminate inside and give that kind of glow inside.
Gotcha. There's another tower that requires a stiff hike to get to. This is probably a good 13, 14 miles round trip, but worth every foot of it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Something else about this book I want to share with readers and get them excited about is this book is based on historic lookout towers and the views and the structures and the history. And Kevin's beautiful photography, but for each tower also includes a sidebar with something interesting related to the tower, or related to the area where the tower is located. And Kevin shot all these images for the sidebars as well. And so some of these are anywhere from roadside attractions to history to flora and fauna, things that you can see or learn about when you go visit some of these towers. And this is one of my favorite images. Of course, this isn't a fire tower, but this is nearby the Ducket Top Lookout Tower in Madison County in the little hamlet of Luck, near two little towns called Trust and Luck. And I just love the colors and the snow in this one. Kevin, what do you recall about? Did you go shoot this one specifically, or were you just driving by?
Well, I'd always been wanting to get a good shot of this old store here, and so I just trusted that I would get it, and in some good conditions and stuff. And when I got here and I found all this snow, and it was pure luck.
Nicely put.
It's like everything else I do. Of course, I knew there was going to be snow here, and that's why I went straight for it. It's right by the road, so it's easy to get to, and I have 4-wheel drive. So, but I shot this several years ago, actually, and I've been back many times since and never found it in as good a condition as this.
Well, I'm glad you did. So this is one of those sidebar images, and many other really diverse and beautiful images and topics to learn about related to these fire towers. So this book really has a lot of material that we're really proud of. Another thing this book features is lots of history in both human interest stories, a lot of interviews from tower operators from back in the day when these structures were used for fire detection. And a lot of history of people who visited these towers a long time ago. This is the Westerwald Tower located on the Appalachian Trail. And one of my favorite stories in the book is a story of the first ever through hiker of the entire 2,000-mile Appalachian Trail from end to end. His name was Earl Schaefer, who in 1948 hiked it from Georgia all the way to Maine. And he came upon this lookout tower, Westerwald. The tower looks a little different now. Kevin's got more modern images of it. It burned down many years back and has been replaced with just the observation tower deck at the top. And so this is just one of the many, I think there's probably around 75 historical images of towers in the book. And it's really neat to compare the old-timey photos of what they used to look like when they were in their heyday of service to modern photos of what you might see when you hike there now and the views you'll see from them there. So both historical photography and a lot of those really interesting tidbits in history related to the towers are contained in this book. Another historical example of a historical image, this is taken from the Shuckstack Lookout Tower in the 1940s of the tower operator scanning the horizon for smoke and fire so he could alert firefighters and Forest Service, National Park personnel of where it was located so they could go put it out and hopefully prevent or stop a big forest fire from occurring and damaging a lot of natural resources and property. This photo was taken in the vicinity of the time frame of one of my favorite finds in my research of this book, which was the poem written by a tower operator from Shuckstack, who during this era was stationed in this tower, which sits just above where the Fontana Dam and Fontana Lake are located now. And just kind of really neat imagining history from this perch in this tower. That gentleman looking out the window right there, he very well may have been looking for smoke, but he was probably also looking down on the construction of Fontana Dam, which is the largest dam in the eastern United States, creating Western North Carolina's biggest lake. So this is one of the most dramatic landscape changes that Western North Carolina's ever seen. They built that dam 24 hours a day in just a couple of years for the war effort to produce energy. So it's kind of, if these towers could talk, or if you could, think about what this gentleman was seeing during that change, it's just really fascinating to me. And I came across a poem written during that time period about that change itself as witnessed from the Shuckstack Tower. So that's a neat inclusion that I'm really proud to have in the book. Kevin, I think we're winding down here. This is one more image. I know this was done by a drone, but Another facet of this book, especially in comparison to the book I wrote long ago about towers, is there's several new towers in this book. And this wasn't a fire tower, but this is a new lookout tower on Sassafras Mountain on the North Carolina-South Carolina state line, and overlooks the newly protected Headwater State Forest in North Carolina. And just a neat, interesting structure with a new view. And I think this will be a new one for a lot of people, even if for those who have visited many of the other towers already. Kevin, how'd you get this one? I think it was a drone. You didn't hold a pole up in there, did you?
No, I'm pretty good at jumping, right? No, it's definitely a drone shot. The hard part about this was getting this shot without a bunch of people. It's very, very cold here. I had to make many trips back because this is a popular location, but for good reason. Great views. This is just terrific, and you can. The walk is not very far at all, as you know. It's only a couple hundred feet to get up there. So yeah, I kept running into people, but I kept returning, and I went on a frigid day, and I was the only one there, so was able to get it with the drone.
Well, nicely done. And thank you for, I know from the base of this one, it's kind of a hard structure to shoot. I've taken a few of my own pictures, and it just doesn't quite look as really cool as it is.
I'm happy with anything I got from the base. Some of the distant views, okay, but of the tower itself, nah.
Yeah, so I love this one, and that design that they put on the tower, you captured just perfectly.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
And then a final component of exploring Western North Carolina's lookout towers, especially a new feature from the long ago book, is the inclusion of 8 former lookout tower sites. These are historical sites that formerly hosted a lookout tower. And similar to the other towers, each of these 8 sites also have a lot of history, a lot of historical images of what the tower used to look like, interviews of people who worked in them. Fascinating occurrences surrounding them. And Kevin, I was even able to convince him to visit these places that no longer had towers to photograph and still shoot the sites. And all 8 of these sites are not only former lookouts, but they're still locations that are worth going to today, not just for the history, because they still have really, really good views from their summits. This is an image that Kevin made of the summit of Table Rock Mountain that stands on one of the rims of the Linville Gorge. And this was a former real squat live-in lookout house, so to speak. And some neat history of this one is that this lookout house stood originally constructed in the 30s and lasted until the 80s. The tower operators who staffed this tower would have had a bird's eye kind of direct aerial view of the very mysterious and renowned and oft debated Brown Mountain Lights just to the east. So I wasn't able to find any remaining tower operators to ask them about their experiences, but almost certainly during that half-decade time frame that this tower was in operation, they would have seen those orbs of light that are so kind of famous or infamous in North Carolina lore floating over the mountain just to the east. So, you know, I want to dote on Kevin here as we close down. Kevin is such a spectacular photographer, in my opinion, that he can go to a place and I can tell him to take a picture of a pile of bricks and some rocks, and he can make it where this is appealing enough where it makes me want to visit the summit of that mountain. What do you remember about this one?
And you know, Peter, you didn't have to talk me into going to these places. The history and the research that you did and writing, that to me, that's one of the best things about the book. And I just love going to these places like this and seeing these remnants that were left over. So, but I want to try to do something to make it stand out a little bit. So I always have my flashlight with me. And so that's the lighting that you see here is just from my flashlight. And I sometimes color that light with gel filters, and so I just put a magenta gel filter on and just lit the stones there just to make them stand out. And I just love places like this. I just love them. So yeah, that was a lot of fun doing this, and learned a lot.
Well, good deal. I hope. I think Kevin, you've had a chance to read over most of the book. I hope it only increased your appreciation for places like these, even the places that are gone now. So
Absolutely.
if those watching couldn't tell already, Kevin and I could talk all day about this topic. We worked for
Night and week and month.
that's right. We worked for years on this project. I am so grateful to Kevin for his beautiful photography and for his partnership and friendship on this project, because it's one really, really special to me that I and we both could not be more excited and proud to share with everyone. We love these places, and we know that you will too. And we hope that this book will get you excited about them. This book will help you appreciate them more before you visit, while you're there, and just cherish these special locations for their historical significance and their natural beauty. So we really hope you will check out the book. And if you're still with us and watching, just know that however long Kevin and I ran, this was the shortest we could have ever have talked about this particular topic.
How did we do that, Peter?
I don't know, and we're hopeful that maybe when the COVID era is winding down, there'll be opportunities for Kevin and I to talk more in person about these towers and our process of creating this book. So we'll hopefully get to share even more and more with readers in the future. So thank you, Kevin, and thank you to everyone who checked us out to learn about this book, and those who will obtain a copy of this book and fall in love with these towers as we have. So thanks again, and Kevin and I will sign off.
Peter. It's been great. Wow, how about that?